They say imitation is the highest form of flattery. What's up, fellow collectors? Welcome back to the M.I.B. Master Toy Museum. I'll be your curator today. Guys, we got a good one for you. We got one that we really want to really dissect and discuss with you guys today. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Easter Sunday. We hope that this video find you healthy and safe and enjoying yourselves. Guys, we're hanging out down here in our museum, and I was saving this video maybe for a couple weeks from now, but I said, you know what, I want to do it now because the topic had came up a couple times in discussions with fellow collectors, and we wanted to discuss this. So I said, you know, let's share it with my subscribers and viewership and see what you guys think. How close did Figures Toy Company get to actually duplicating Mego's action figures from the 1970s? How close did they get? And what we mean by that is not so much as in a bad way, or you know, what we mean is, did they do a good job? Like I said earlier in the video, imitation is the highest form of flattery. How well did Figures Toy Company imitate, duplicate, replicate Mego's iconic action figures from the 1970s? How good were they? Pretty good, decent, okay. They were way off the mark. Well, I had a fellow collector. We're just discussing, talking things. We always talk shop. And he said, he said, M.I.B, I really hate the fact that Figures Toy Company came out with all of those figures. He's like, I was looking at one of your videos, man. I see all those FTC figures, and it just sickens me to see them. He is a Mego. He is a Mego purist by every stretch of the imagination. He's a Mego purist through and through. He only collects Mego action figures. He will never collect an FTC figure. He was absolutely thrilled to death that Mego returned back in 2018, as we all were. But when these figures were announced, and I remember when these retro Batman figures were announced from FTC, people lost their minds. They got really nostalgic. They were excited about this figure, as well as they should be. This was a part of a lot of our childhoods growing up. And a lot of us, being the kids we were from the 1970s, played with our action figures to death in the backyards, you name it. And these figures took a beating. Capes were lost, gloves were lost, boots were lost, and always the bat emblem was always lost immediately. I remember my Batman figure from 1979, my Mego figure. I mean, this emblem Didn't even last a day. It came off. I lost it. Didn't know where it was at. So he was still Batman, though. And that was still the charm of these figures. So when Figures Toy Company started to reproduce these figures painstakingly, almost identically to the originals that we had as kids growing up, which are now considered vintage figures. I mean, we were back in business. We were back in business. Or were we? The purist, if you will, the Mego purists, hate these figures, as I'm so told. And I'm sure it's not all of them. One Mego purist went as far as to share with me that these figures right here are hurting the vintage resale value on the secondary market for the vintage Mego figures. His claim is, why would anybody, M.I.B, want to go pay $800 for a vintage Mego Shazam when they can pay $30 for Figures Toy Company's version of Shazam? He's got a great point. Guys, we want your thoughts on this today. We want your opinions right underneath the comment section of this video. How many of these figures do you have in your collection? But more importantly than that, were you as excited as I was when Figures Toy Company announced that they would be creating these figures again? How excited were you? A little? A lot? Or were you like my collector buddy, very upset? He didn't want another Superman. He didn't want another Superman. He wanted his vintage ones, and that's all he collects is vintage, and the new Megos. How close did FTC get? So that was the question like I posed to him, and I said, well, FTC did a fantastic job. You must admit, they did a fantastic job as we look at our Tarzan figure. I didn't have Tarzan growing up, but I've been told that this figure is practically identical in every way to the original. Your thoughts, guys. How close did Mego, FTC, Figures Toy Company, how close did they get to the actual Mego figures from the 1970s? And do you have a problem? Do you have a problem with that? We want to hear all of that, guys. Looking at the Conan figure that was so popular now on a secondary market for the vintage Conan Mego figures. FTC, to me, did a fantastic job on this figure. And here was another thing, guys. A lot of these figures are extremely rare now. They're very difficult to find on the even on the secondary market. A lot of these figures are hard to find in decent to good condition, not great to, pristine condition, decent to good condition. It's hard to find these figures. It's hard to part with thousands of dollars on the secondary market to find this figure in pristine condition, still in packaging, still in window box form, you name it. So FTC, Figures Toy Company, did you one better. They went out and reproduced this figure and put a price tag on it that you can still go out and buy more figures and be happy. This is a figures roughly about 30 something dollars. Who has $800 to $1,000 to buy a Conan figure mint on card? I mean, who has that money, that type of money? Not in the day and time that we're living in now. It's very, very expensive, very difficult. The Teen Titans was another set of Mego figures that are now extremely rare, hard to find, very difficult to obtain, even on the secondary market, in fantastic condition. Very hard to get. And if you find them, you're going to pay a ton of money. Figures Toy Company came out with all four, and we have two on the stage today. My other two is somewhere in the museum. I'm still cleaning up, guys, but Speedy was a one that was very difficult to obtain, still is, from what I hear. And how close did Figures Toy Company get to the original? How close did they get? He's got his bow, his quiver back there, arrows. There's the hat. There's the head sculpt. I've heard the head sculpt was beautifully done. So should Figures Toy Company be commended for their effort? Like I said earlier, you know, this is a form of flattery to imitate and duplicate a figure to such a high degree that it brings out the nostalgia in all of us, the excitement, the memories in all of us as collectors, looking back to when we were kids from the 1970s. I never got any of these figures for the Teen Titans, as I'm sure a lot of collectors will, confess today that they didn't as well. These figures were here today, gone tomorrow, and now that, they are some of the most prized and sought after Mego figures on the market today. But Figures Toy Company still sells these figures. I believe they're sold out of one of them. I'm not sure. I believe it might be Speedy that they're sold out of. But you can get these guys. So there's our Aqualad. Did Figures Toy Company get it right? How close did they get? This is just good, wholesome talk, collecting talk. Looking at our Robin. I love my Robin figure when I was a kid in the 1970s. So every chance I got, I would ask for him for Christmas or for a birthday. Whatever reason, Batman and Robin were my favorites. I watched the TV show, and it was in reruns by then, but I watched it nevertheless, and I was in love with it. So Batman and Robin were my favorites. Figures Toy Company and they're vilified to some degree. They are vilified to some degree for recreating Mego's figures. Here's a question. Is Mego upset with that? Would Mego be upset with that? And why would they be upset with that? Your thoughts, your opinions, your comments right underneath this video in the comment section, guys. I'm, for one, am extremely happy that that Figures Toy Company decided to create these figures. We didn't know. You have to understand, guys, this is at a time that Mego was still out of business. Let's look at this. I'll give you a date here. This Robin was produced in 2014. This is the fist fighting one. This is my fist fighter Robin. I have him in many versions. Box, carded, you name it. So this is the fist fighter. So in 2014, Mego wasn't even on the scene at that point. They didn't come for another 4 years. So as a fan of Mego and the figures that we had as kids, if you weren't on eBay trying to win a bid on these figures, that were going for between $5 to $1,000, you didn't have a chance. So of course, I went out and purchased these figures when Figures Toy Company announced that they would be producing these figures. And I personally, I think Figures Toy Company got extremely close. Obviously too close, because some people are very upset to the point where they think that these figures are hurting the vintage Mego figures. They're hurting the secondary sales market. Is that possible? I don't think so. I don't think that these replications of the vintage figures, I don't think they could do damage financially to vintage Mego figures. People are going to buy what they want to buy. I don't know too many people that's walking around with about $2,000 in their pocket that could afford a vintage mint on card, pristine, no bends, no rubs, no fading. The figure is in absolute pristine condition along with the card. I don't know anybody that has that type of money to just throw away. And Figures Toy Company does you one better. They give you an extra emblem if something happens to this one. Although I don't think anything will ever happen to this one. Well, for one, he's not coming out. He's for museum purposes. I don't think anything would happen to that. Look, it's silk screened on. But he comes with another one just the same. Guys, your thoughts on this? How close is too close? How close did Figures Toy Company get to making an absolute exact imitation of the original Mego figures? Your thoughts, your opinions, guys. Don't pull any punches. See, he's got his emblem too. Let us know in the comment section, guys. More fun on the way, but we had to share this with you. I just wanted to get this off my chest so we can talk about it publicly. We can discuss it publicly and get everybody's opinions on it. You know the routine, guys. Stay safe. God bless. And keep collecting.